But that demonstrates that the rules for right and wrong are not perfectly rigid, but are best understood in light of the present circumstances and objectives. Appropriateness of your behavior is situationally dependent. An appropriate action is not something that can be mimetically transmitted. Nobody could teach him a year before that there was going to, here's when you do and here's when you don't commit suicide. You can't teach that, okay? He just knows. He intrinsically knows. He can assess the situation, make that decision for himself, and he breaks the rules, which happens to be the right rule for that situation. And then because he was fueling the plane, now these three guys are on the plane, the Navy SEAL, the pilot, and Jerry, and the fuel line is still in the plane. So Jerry has to look the Navy SEAL dead in the face and say, the fuel line's still in the plane, we can't take off with it in there. And the Navy SEAL doesn't question anything. He just says, I sure hope you find what you're looking for. I sure hope Jerusalem pans out or something like that. I forget what he says. And then he goes out there and he does his duty. He unhooks the fuel line knowing that he's going to die for going back out there. It's just how it is. So that's pretty amazing to be able to do that, to look somebody in the face and say, and ask them to die a horrible death within minutes, within seconds, really. So he has to go out there and do that. So South Korea, you see a bunch of examples there. So they get in the plane and they fly. So what I want you to be thinking about all this time is all the little decisions they're making that aren't the norm, that aren't the Chronos norm. And also when he goes against the majority recommendation to not talk to the CIA guy and he talks to him and it winds up panning out. So he goes to Jerusalem, and I have a picture up here that show the walls out there. And Jerusalem had enough, in Israel, they had enough time, enough warning to build these walls. And it shows him coming in, and he gets assigned this Israeli soldier who's a female who plays a significant character for the rest of the movie from here out. She's a significant character. And he's talking to this Israeli intelligence guy, what do they call him, Mossad, something like that. And he's asking how this happened. He says they received a telegraph from India which had the word zombie, or technically the word undead, in it. And so everyone thought it was either a hoax or not worth paying attention to or overblown. And so this is very interesting here. This is very interesting for sense making and for anti-consensus. They said they developed something called the rule of the 10th man. And that is when you have 10 people in the council and all 10 people agree unanimously on a certain interpretation of what information means or what to do about it, it is the duty of the 10th person to disagree, no matter what it is. And that is why he disagreed and said, okay, everyone thinks I'm going to say that it is zombies. And so we're going to build a wall around this city. We're not going to let anybody in or out except in a very controlled way. So I love that. The idea of the 10th man. I think we need a 10th man on global warming, and we need a 10th man on so many other things that popped in my head earlier that I can't think of on the spur of the moment now. But there are so many cases where consensus is the name of the game, and we're addicted to certainty and consensus. But I think in some of these things, we need a 10th man on these things. When it comes to, if you're ideologically possessed by Calvinism, you need to be the 10th man and disagree, okay? The necessity to conduct your own sense-making and be that 10th man. I think it'd be kind of cool to start like a fellowship group called the 10th Man. So, our job is just to make sure we're pursuing lines of thought that are disagreement with what is most commonly believed to be true. Something like that. I don't know.